from Manchester United's next superstar to become football's biggest punchline.
Alejandro Garnacho to a youngster there. What do you think of him? I don't really like him.
In the name of Jesus, any form of bad spirit, any form of not beating your man, any form of not beating your man while you dribble, any form of fake shot and not scoring, I insist it for you in Jesus. Yes, Pastor. You have the power of mercy, you have the power of death, you have the power of grace. I receive it in Jesus. Yes. I said pray.
One of the most exciting young talents in Europe, the wonderkid who scored that bicycle kick, the player United fans believed could lead the club into a new era. But just 2 years later from that bicycle kick, Manchester United let him go. Chelsea gave up on him after only 1 season. And now he's trying to rebuild his career at Aston Villa.
Feels like he's been around for such a long time, isn't it? Playing in Manchester United since 2022, but only 22 years of age at the start of the month. 93 league appearances for United, 16 goals, but just the 1 goal for Chelsea last season. How good a move is it for the player? How big of an opportunity does this feel like now?
It feels like a massive opportunity. I wouldn't say last chance saloon, but it feels like an opportunity which Alejandro Garnacho needs to grasp.
Normally, football fans feel sorry for young players when they fail, but not for this guy. Not Garnacho. The internet couldn't stop laughing. There's memes, tweets, people are satisfied with it, and they called it deserved karma.
Nope, I don't want him. You have him. No chance, I don't want him either. You take him. I'm not keeping him. Neither am I. Back to you. Ooh, I'll have him. We're used to taking your rejects. I'll give you 65 million. Thank you much.
Why does Alejandro Garnacho's downfall feel so satisfying to so many football fans? And does he deserve it? It is painfully ironic that all of this schadenfreude stems from the brightest memories of the past, when just a few years ago, Garnacho shattered every age barrier to earn a place in the starting lineup during the 22-23 season. With 102 appearances and 21 goals for the Red Devils, along with back-to-back Carabao Cup and FA Cup triumphs, it was exactly the kind of career every kid coming out of the Carrington Academy dreams of.
Alejandro Garnacho, everyone is buzzing about him. He does look like an absolute talent. Already called up to the Argentina squad. I mean, training alongside Lionel Messi, training alongside Cristiano Ronaldo. This lad is 17. Can you imagine? These are the type of players now that you're hoping this new change in the summer is going to develop and make Manchester United players. We know they've got the quality. We've seen youth players come through before, but they've fallen because of what's been going on here at Manchester United.
But all of that glory quickly became a distant luxury under Ruben Amorim, as everything fell apart at breathtaking speed. The tragedy first became apparent in February 2025 against Ipswich Town, when Garnacho was substituted, and instead of taking his place on the bench like every other player, chose to walk straight down the tunnel.
Thinking was that we would play more in the 5-3-1. I know that is a risk because you are taking one, maybe the only player now that he has 1-against-1 in pace. But I felt the team was okay in controlling of the game, almost in the half time. And then we make the substitution, and we had to choose someone to go out. We have to think about set pieces also, so it was my choice. I'm not. What I'm saying is that I'm going to talk obviously with Garnacho about that. So I will talk about that if you want in the next press conference.
The act of defiance proved to be an ominous warning, and it took only a few more words from the Portuguese tactician for the relationship between the two to completely break down. The true breaking point came in May 2025 in Bilbao, where United faced Tottenham in the Europa League final, their last chance to salvage the worst season of the club's Premier League era after finishing just 16th in the league. Despite starting every knockout match, Garnacho was surprisingly dropped to the bench, as Amorim opted for Mason Mount in the biggest game of the season, and United ultimately suffered a heartbreaking 1-0 defeat. The bitterness of that loss, combined with months of growing frustration, left Garnacho unable to hide his anger, prompting him to openly tell the media exactly how he felt immediately after the match. The relationship, already beyond repair, deteriorated even further when Garnacho's brother, Roberto, publicly accused the club of having thrown him under the bus. That inflammatory statement from a family member proved to be the final straw that completely destroyed any remaining relationship between the two sides. According to multiple reports, Amorim bluntly told Garnacho to find a new club, and just a few months later, his £40 million move to Chelsea was officially completed, making him another member of the so-called bomb squad discarded by Amorim alongside Rashford and Sancho. This rebellious behaviour was hardly surprising because, to be fair, walking straight down the tunnel at Old Trafford was not the first time Garnacho had angered the home crowd. Before that, he had even refused to celebrate a goal simply because he felt he wasn't loved enough.
Can I say though, Roy, for a 20-year-old, right?
But still celebrate. Celebrate.
But he's still going through the journey of what he's doing. You know what I mean? That affected him to the point where he didn't celebrate. He's got a great goal, but he's worried about that, and he's a young player.
He's just scored a brilliant goal, and nothing should be in your head when you score a goal. It should be like, this is it. This is the greatest.
That silent rift never truly healed, and when January 2026 saw Ruben Amorim dismissed with a win rate of just 47%, the worst record since Sir Alex Ferguson stepped down in 2013, Garnacho responded with a gesture that spoke volumes. While virtually every former teammate paid tribute to Amorim, from Bruno Fernandes posting "thank you" to Harry Maguire thanking him for everything, Garnacho quietly liked Fabrizio Romano's Instagram post confirming the dismissal. It was only a single like, but it was enough for the entire Manchester United fanbase to realise it was no coincidence. Garnacho carried that quiet defiance with him to London, where Chelsea had just agreed to spend £40 million in the hope of acquiring a pacey winger. But before he had even played a single official minute for his new club, he was already making headlines for the wrong reasons. His transfer was completed too late for him to feature in the derby against Fulham, and instead of focusing on supporting his teammates, Garnacho was caught by Sky Sports cameras casually scrolling through his phone in the Stamford Bridge stands during the match.
There he is, Garnacho. Look at him. On his phone, looking at social media. There's a game on, mate. He's such a knobhead. He's such a knobhead. There's a bloody game going on and he's sat on his phone. Caught in 4K. Welcome to Chelsea. That's exactly what you're getting, mate. That's him. That's Garnacho.
That phone in the stands turned out to be just the beginning of another bizarre chapter, because once the season officially got underway, everything at Chelsea became chaotic in a completely different way. The turmoil reached its peak when Enzo Maresca left on January 1st, 2026, and was replaced by former Strasbourg manager Liam Rosenior, who was himself dismissed after just 107 days in charge following a run of 5 consecutive Premier League defeats without scoring a single goal, capped by a humiliating 8-2 Champions League thrashing at the hands of PSG. Amid that managerial crisis, Chelsea were forced to promote E21 coach Callum McFarlane as interim manager before eventually appointing Xabi Alonso as their new head coach. Going through 4 different managers in a single season turned Chelsea's dugout into a position that changed hands even faster than the lineup of a reality TV show. Lost in the chaos of those 4 managerial reigns, Garnacho became nothing more than a shadow of his former self, collecting Man of the Match awards in games hardly anyone remembers, from scoring a brace to help Chelsea beat Cardiff in the Carabao Cup to another brace in the first leg of the semi-final. But once the unforgiving spotlight of the Premier League truly came on, the Cole statistics immediately exposed the harsh reality. Across all competitions in the 2025-26 season, 43 appearances with 4 goals and 8 assists might seem respectable at first glance. But in the Premier League alone, the only competition that truly defines the calibre of a star, he managed just 1 goal and 4 assists in 24 matches, despite playing more than 1,200 minutes. Compared to the 11 goals and 10 assists he had produced just 1 season earlier at Manchester United, this was clearly not just a dip in form, but a career freefall with no breaks.
Garnacho, though?
Garnacho, I watched a lot of football over my 60-odd years of watching football, and even longer. That was one of the worst performances by a professional footballer I have ever seen in my life. He was indescribably terrible.
I'm not calling him Garnacho anymore. I'm calling him Subject 49.
We have a problem with crime rates in this country. I can give you a good suggestion in how we can reduce crime rates. Get criminals watching Garnacho go one-on-one. I promise you, crime rates go down. They'll never want to commit a crime again. Do that in the USA, they'll be like it's literally torture watching this guy. Like I was literally getting a headache watching this guy going one-on-one. He's useless.
I hate Garnacho. Like, I really do. I don't know if I've ever found a Chelsea player less likeable. I warm to Chelsea players. So even if you don't like them, I'll find the positives. So like generally speaking, every Chelsea player I can find like a redeeming quality, even the ones I'm not that fond of, even the ones I don't rate that highly. There's just nothing with this bloke. There's just absolutely nothing.
Fate dealt Garnacho a cruel twist in May 2026 when the FA Cup final arrived. Exactly 2 years after his historic opening goal helped Manchester United defeat Manchester City at Wembley, Garnacho returned to the same competition wearing Chelsea blue, once again facing Manchester City, the very opponent he had conquered in that final 2 years earlier, not Manchester United, the former club he had left the previous summer. In a remarkably ironic coincidence, Manchester City remained the familiar obstacle standing between Garnacho and the FA Cup, even though he now represented a completely different club and found himself in a completely different role. This time, he was introduced from the bench in the 85th minute to replace João Pedro, only to helplessly watch Chelsea fall 1-0 to Antoine Semenya's winner after spending just a few brief minutes on the pitch.
Mate, you can't take a touch. On my life, I'm better than Garnacho. I'm better than Garnacho, Honestly, Garnacho, I challenge you to a 1v1. I'm better than you, mate. I am actually better than you. Because, mate, you can't take a touch. I have never in my life, I play football, right? I'm a winger. I have never in my life seen a winger that cannot take his player on. I have never in my life seen that.
That brief moment of helplessness at Wembley was merely one of many rock-bottom moments in what had become an incredibly difficult season for Garnacho. The humiliation became even more direct in April 2026, when his former Manchester United teammates defeated Chelsea 1-0 at Stamford Bridge, courtesy of a goal from Matheus Cunha.
Considering you've already made one change, you make another one and you've only got one shuffle in the second half. Cunha!
After that match, another shocking moment followed when Luke Shaw posted a photo of himself knocking Garnacho to the ground with the caption "Important win," while Amad Diallo, the only former teammate willing to pose for a photo with him, was forced to quickly delete the post and even wipe his entire Instagram account after being bombarded with abuse from United supporters. Even more sadly, not even Chelsea fans, the very people whose club was paying his wages, showed him any sympathy. After the dreadful performances of Garnacho del Appenato, one supporter bluntly wrote, "What would we do to deserve this?" The backlash from the very people who once supported him is the clearest proof of one unchanging rule in the beautiful game. Football is remarkably forgiving of poor performances. Fans are willing to forgive a disappointing season or a costly missed chance. But there is one thing football almost never forgives: the feeling of betrayal. Yet Garnacho, whether intentionally or not, kept striking that exact nerve among the supporters through a series of indefensible actions, walking straight down the tunnel in the middle of a match, refusing to celebrate a goal simply because he felt he wasn't loved enough, allowing his brother to publicly attack his manager, and finally, quietly liking a post celebrating the dismissal of the very man who had once coached him. Taken together, those selfish actions created exactly the kind of character the English media loves to portray, an ungrateful traitor. And when that same person, immediately after walking away, goes on to suffer such an obvious downfall, it becomes the perfect recipe for schadenfreude, the twisted pleasure of watching someone else's misery.
Of himself and Garnacho more or less on the floor, and a lot of Manchester United players joined in the comments. I think Bruno Fernandes said that's a violation in the form of a GIF. I think you had Shea Lacey sending laughing emojis. Joshua Zirkzee commented. Like, there's much love lost between Alejandro Garnacho and his former teammates. There's certainly no love lost between Garnacho and the Manchester United fans. It's obvious he doesn't have a lot of affection for the club, and that's reciprocated, and it's reciprocated by his teammates, or his former teammates, I should say, who don't seem to have a lot of time for him. And the United fans are absolutely loving that, loving the fact that we beat Chelsea, and loving the fact that Garnacho was on the losing side, and loving the fact that some of his former teammates are giving him a bit of stick because of that.
Things became even more absurd when United fans discovered and accused Garnacho of quietly deleting all of his Chelsea-related videos on TikTok while reposting old clips from his Old Trafford days, seemingly hinting that his former club still missed him. But that attempt to seek sympathy only triggered another wave of ruthless mockery from the Red Devils faithful, with blunt comments such as, "We don't miss that rat." That overwhelming anger shows this story carries a far deeper meaning than an ordinary dressing room drama. According to many English journalists, the hostile reaction Garnacho now receives from the Old Trafford crowd closely resembles the treatment once reserved for Carlos Tevez, the man who became the ultimate symbol of betrayal in Manchester football after leaving United to join their city rival. For football fans, some mistakes gradually fade away and are eventually forgiven. But turning your back on the very place that nurtured and developed you, especially when doing so publicly and dramatically, only to suffer a humiliating downfall immediately afterward, is a sin that is almost never met with forgiveness. That is precisely the formula behind the strange sense of satisfaction felt by millions of people, not just Manchester United supporters, every time they watch Garnacho come off the bench, only to quickly find himself back keeping the substitutes bench company.
But before that, we all need to take a minute just to laugh at Alejandro Garnacho. Yes, Alejandro Garnacho, who has been quite cheeky about Manchester United since he left the club, to be totally honest with you. A few questions he's answered where he's taken sly digs at Manchester United, and he thought the grass was ever so greener at Stamford Bridge. He thought he had found his place where he would go on and fulfill that potential that Manchester United fans knew quite well about. But it hasn't gone to plan, and now he's set to leave Stamford Bridge just a year on from leaving Manchester United in a move where he's set to join Aston Villa on loan.
The final stage of the purge arrived on July 23rd, 2026, when Chelsea officially sent Garnacho away from Stamford Bridge on a season-long loan to Aston Villa with a purchase option worth around £42.5 million that is widely expected to be triggered. Ironically, that ruthless decision came from Chelsea's new head coach, Xabi Alonso, the very man who had already crossed Garnacho off his plans during his first pre-season with the club.
Good player, Garnacho. No, he's good player, Gabs. He's all right, you know. He's not bad. I think he'll do well for you. He's good. Good replacement. What's he good at? No, he's all right. I've seen signs. No. I've seen signs with Garnacho.
I don't hear it.
I remember back in 2008, he looked all right.
Bro, a man left Man United to join Chelsea. 1 year later, he's been loaned with an option to buy or buy clause. Oh, it's mandatory under certain conditions. Probably if Aston Villa get Champions League or something like that, or he scores 10 goals, or who knows what it is. Anyways, Unai Emery wanted Garnacho. I just can't understand it, bro. How do you go from Man United to Chelsea to Aston Villa? How does he keep getting good enough moves, bro?
Alongside Garnacho's departure, the transfer market also witnessed a fascinating twist in the opposite direction. Morgan Rogers, Unai Emery's prized left winger, left Villa to join Chelsea in a record-breaking deal worth more than £117 million. At the same time, midfielder Yuri Tielemans also decided to leave Villa Park and complete a move to Manchester United. The three major clubs ended up exchanging players in what felt like an unbelievable and chaotic merry-go-round. As if fate had scripted a nostalgic reunion, Garnacho inherited the number 17 shirt at Villa Park, the very same number he wore during the brightest years of his Manchester United career. The same shirt, but in different colours, under the guidance of Unai Emery, a manager renowned for his golden touch in reviving talented players whose careers have fallen into crisis.
I was looking for a club to get confidence, you know, and try to be the player that I was like years ago from my first years at United. And I think I spoke with obviously with the manager, and I think they give me that confidence to be here and try to help the team here.
However, recent history at Villa Park suggests it is far from a fairy tale destination for wingers leaving Old Trafford under difficult circumstances. Before Garnacho, Marcus Rashford arrived on loan, performed reasonably well, but not convincingly enough for Villa to activate the £40 million purchase option. Jadon Sancho fared even worse, a failure so severe that Villa had no interest in keeping him, even on a free transfer. In other words, Villa Park has become something of a rehabilitation centre for former Manchester United wingers, and frankly speaking, the success rate has not been particularly high. But the biggest difference this time is that Aston Villa are no longer a mid-table club trying to establish themselves. They have just completed a magnificent 2025-26 campaign, finishing fourth in the Premier League to secure Champions League football, while proudly lifting the Europa League trophy, the club's first major title in exactly 30 years. It is an ambitious project that is genuinely moving forward under the guidance of Unai Emery. That is why Garnacho's first real test will arrive quickly and mercilessly. On August 12, he and Aston Villa will face the reigning Champions League winners, PSG, in the UEFA Super Cup. That will be followed by his Premier League debut against Brighton August 23. There will be no time to ease himself in, and there certainly will be no room for the lifeless, uninspiring performances that define his time at Stamford Bridge.
He's 22.
Yeah, he's 22, but he's a very experienced footballer. But his conduct is the reason that we talk like this, Shaban. Like, it's not a personal vendetta. His behaviour leads to the level of venom that he gets.
Football can forgive poor performances on the pitch, but it almost never forgives the feeling of betrayal. Through 2 years of selfish and highly public actions, Garnacho has written his own story to fit exactly that deeply ingrained narrative in the eyes of the fans. But football is also a sport of unexpected redemption. At 22 years old, he still has time, and he still has an elite manager like Unai Emery who believes in him. Now, under the lights of Villa Park, the real question is this. Does Garnacho have the strength to tear everything down and rebuild, rewriting the story of his entire career, or will Aston Villa become just another stop on a journey slowly fading into obscurity? If you enjoy our video, don't forget to hit like to help this video reach to other football lovers, and hit the subscribe button to follow for more interesting videos about football stories. See you in the next video.